Sakata Vegetable Production Series. Today we are talking tomatoes, specifically harvesting. When should you harvest? What does it look like when you're harvesting? And also just, I've got a few indeterminate varieties here on an open field. So let's just find out how that works as well. Johan, how are you doing?
Fine yourself.
No, good.
Lekker.
Now we're not under the nets this time.
No, nice in the open field, catching some sun.
So let's start with that one. Last time I spoke to you, you said that usually you plant determinate varieties on open field, but yeah, you've gone the opposite route. You've gone indeterminate. Why did you do that?
Okay, basically just the indeterminate varieties, I think we mentioned it the previous time as well, but it's all about quality. So in general, indeterminate varieties have got better quality, better shelf life than the determinates. But depending on your market, you can go either way. You will not plant a determinate under protection or under shade, but the indeterminates you can do under plastic, under net, and in the open field. But open field is just a little bit more management. You will see that on some of the poles on a determinate, this pole will be more than sufficient for the determinate. Yes. But you will see the indeterminates, they grow a little bit past the poles, so you need to extend the poles and all of that. They tend to fall over like this one. So it's just a different management, but you get the quality and the shelf life and the yield on the indeterminates.
So you just need to make sure that and this is also still then called 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃.
Yes, exactly the same methods. Nothing has changed between determinate and indeterminate. Only thing is indeterminate, they will, if you don't have longer poles, normally you would look like a 1.8 meter pole at least. Yeah. If you've got shorter poles, you might need to extend them. But it's for the benefit of the quality, shelf life, you can do that.
Okay, so speaking of which, let's get to harvesting. So what do I need to look at when I want to harvest the tomatoes? When do I know that these things are ready? Because specifically on the indeterminate varieties, I'm going to harvest more than once, if I'm correct.
Yes, you're going to harvest more than once. But we've got a saying in the South African market, if you ask about when the tomato is ready for harvesting, the tomato is ready for harvesting when the price is right. So that's the long and the short of it. But no, on a more serious note, we can go through, we can have a closer look on the tomatoes. But normally for the South African market, we do want a little bit of shelf life on the tomatoes as well. Then we basically harvest at the breaker stage.
A breaker stage, right?
Breaker stage. That's basically.
That's not now like load shedding where they just switch
There's
off
not the breaker stage. That's actually when the stuff comes on, when the lights come on. So that's when your fruits has reached the maturity size-wise.
Yes. And
then basically it's just start turning red, or a pinkish color or an orange color, but it's just starting to break color. That's basically the breaking stage. It breaks color. But the fruit is at maturity and the size will not increase after maturity. That's when we basically start harvesting. Then you've got the best and the most days harvest. Because what's going to happen now is you're going to harvest, you're going to take it to the pack house, put it in boxes, then you're going to transport to market. From the market, it's going to go to retail or to other different outlets. So you want that extra five days of shelf life to be added in the transport chain.
So how long does it then take to turn, and because then it turns red on its own?
Yes, then it can turn, as long as you harvest on size, you don't harvest if you harvest the fruit too early before it has turned.
Yes.
Then you run the risk of the variety. It will eventually turn, but then you will have actually poor shelf life. Contrary with when you have harvested at the correct stage and you can extend the shelf life. If you harvest too early, you can delay the ripening, and then the process of ripening has not fully started, and then you're actually at a disadvantage on your shelf life.
Other question is on tomatoes, refrigeration or not? Some people say you must put it in the fridge, others say you mustn't.
Yes, it depends on what you want. Exactly with harvesting as well, the best is not to refrigerate. Yeah, that's the best. Then you get the best taste. You don't really gain a lot of shelf life. All you see is that the whole process of ripening takes longer. But if you really look at it, the best quality will be if you can harvest put it on a shelf, let it turn, and consume it, let's say, within a week.
Yeah.
Go and buy tomatoes again. Don't try to prolong it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, put it in the refrigerator. That tomato, it's going to lose shelf life. It's not going to taste nice. So for me, aim for about 7 days of shelf life and just leave it on the shelf. You'll get the best taste on your tomatoes.
And so then just another question is, if you leave it longer than that champagne color, so let's say we wait for it to be fully ripe,
yes,
and we then harvest it, doesn't that fruit then actually taste better because it got more sugars in it?
Yes.
Does it taste better?
Yes, I prefer, if you can, I mean, that's I think the whole thing about, for instance, homegrown tomatoes.
Yes, someone that's got a homegrown tomato.
This is different to what you will grow at home. At home you'll get the money makers and the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and all of that, which is good. You leave the fruit on the plant until it's mature and ready or red color.
Yep.
Then you consume it. Then you don't look for shelf life. You consume it 1 or 2 days. Consume it. It's got a beautiful flavor. That's why a lot of the consumers at the end complain about a tomato does not have any taste. But we harvest it at the breaker stage, then we basically artificially ripen it off the plant, and
but
the sugars are not there, the taste is not there.
The bricks and everything, it's not getting into that plant the
yes.
way that it would have when it ripened naturally on
yes.
the plant.
So,
but the way the setup and the value chain is set up, you need to do it like
yes.
that, because as a company and as a farmer, you need that shelf life to be able to
yes.
produce a proper product at the end of the
yes.
day.
Yes, and I think that's a little bit different to, for instance, some of the European markets, where you get cluster tomatoes, or even if you walk on a fresh produce market or in the retail there, you don't see breaker stage tomatoes. You see ripe, ready tomatoes. They harvest it when it's fully mature and ripe, consume it within 1 or 2 days, go back to the shop and buy again. That's the culture in Europe or in different countries.
Yeah, I want to buy a bag of tomatoes and then I want to leave it for like a week. And
then you have to sacrifice something. You can't have the perfect world. You have to sacrifice something, and we sacrifice taste. For me, if I grow tomatoes, I look for the ripest tomato on the plant, and that one is the perfect tomato to eat. You'll experience a completely different flavor to tomatoes when buying it and it was harvested at an early stage, when it's not physiologically ripe and you artificially basically ripen it. I would go for on the plant for as long as possible and try to consume it on a more regular basis.
So now we've got a few tomatoes here that we've got. Just explain to me quickly the marketability of the fruit, and how do I know that I can sell something or not?
Yeah, no, so that's one of the let's say heartbreaking stuff, is you've done all the work, at the end it looks quite nice, but everyone is looking for the perfect tomato.
Yep.
But unfortunately we live in a real world, so there is some physiological disorders that we have to contend with. One of the ones I want to point out here is, and that goes inside with the stage at which you harvest. We said here, rather leave the fruit as long as possible on the plant and all of that, but the more you leave the fruit on the plant, the less likely is for physiological disorders to appear. Something like this, which we call concentric cracking, is something
So
where
it's like a smiley face.
it's almost like a smiley face.
Yep.
And then secondary infections can come in here with disease and fruit rots. But that's basically when your fruit is mature, it's starting to ripen up, and then for instance with the irrigation or rainfall, you get variability in your soil profile, on your water, and that is now, especially after a dry period, either irrigation or then a lot of rainfall, what had happened here on this farm, and then basically all the water goes into your fruit, and the fruit wall has already started to degrade, and then it bursts open, and then you get, and that basically
Like
is
a
now
little
a third or a fourth
Not
grade
good.
fruit. So there's nothing wrong with the inside, but it's not the perfect tomato, so it will most probably not reach the consumer.
So that
due to this.
that goes to the tomato sauce now.
Basically, yes. Just to point out some other physiological effect, you get the concentric cracking like this. In less severe cases, you get something like this, which is little marks here on the shoulder. This is called rain check. Basically the same symptoms almost as this, but in a lesser effect. You get that rain check. This would be considered maybe a second grade tomato. This is a third or fourth grade tomato. This is something that we also see on a lot of tomatoes. This is not happened due to the harvesting stage. This is already in the flowering stage, where we have.
I just want to get it, but this is not something that I'm doing wrong. It just happens, and a certain percentage of your tomatoes will be like
yes,
that.
We must understand that some things you can manage, other things you cannot.
Yep.
In most of these cases, the physiological disorders that I'm showing here, you can't really do anything. There's nothing you did wrong. I mean, we cannot control the rain in the open field, so it's very difficult to combat that. But that's the heartbreak of the whole thing, is you end up with a crop like this and stuff like this happens. This is, I mentioned, already in the flowering stage. This has happened. You will also see, this is a lochial abortion. And a lochial, basically we refer to the cavities here where the seed are grown, and one of those cavities did not develop.
Also known as a hole in my tomato.
A hole in your tomato, yes.
Right.
So that's one of the things, and there's nothing wrong with the tomato. You can still eat it. There's no disease on it, but as a consumer,
I don't want to buy it.
You don't want to buy it. So that goes down to the bin. This is something else I can show you. This is an insect that we're dealing with now, and it creates havoc on your yield. And basically you can do everything right. As I mentioned, you can have a bumper crop, and then this insect, which we call 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, it comes in, it makes it lays a egg here, the worm develops, and it goes into your fruit. You can see there's severe cases, and some of this does end up on the shelf, but we just discussed here earlier, don't ever buy, or don't ever just bite into a tomato if you don't fully inspect it.
If there's a little hole or something, it's not like an orange where there will be a worm in there.
Yes, if you've got a little hole here on the side, at the bottom, under the calyx, most probably there will be a worm in there.
Okay, and why have I been holding these things now?
Okay, so this is what I want to show you as well. What we're looking for when we develop tomatoes is, this is what we call a beefsteak tomato, or I like to refer to it in South Africa as a 𝗩𝗿𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. This is nice, big, so one slice on a sandwich, make over the braai. But this is the lochials that I'm referring to, and this is a multi-locular fruit. In general, what we really want for first-class tomatoes is if you've got 4 lochials, right? 2 lochials opposite each other, but we're looking for a nice thick fruit wall, nice dense inside, then you know you've got the shelf life, and that's what we're looking for in a tomato.
Last thing I want to know is determinate versus indeterminate. How many times will I harvest here in the open field before these plants start going off?
Okay, on a determinate, I think you can 1 month, 1.5 months, then you'll be finished. On the indeterminate, you can go for 2 to 3 months. Depending on the climate, under these conditions, you can see that these plants are taking a hammering with all the rain and the humidity and the disease, all of that. But under normal conditions, indeterminate 2 to 3 months harvest.
Awesome, Johan. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Right, so that is tomato harvesting from Sakata, from our Sakata vegetable production series. If you've got any questions, comment below, or you can click the link on top here and you can get in contact with Sakata. And if you want to grow the best possible tomatoes, you know where to go. This is here from Farm Space. Till next time. Cheers.
Bye-bye.